Well, good evening, everybody. And this is another one of those live streams where I wasn't going to do anything. By the way, I apologize for the glasses. These are those glasses you can get for like £2 in the bargain shops. There's no designer wear here. That's what these are, and I just need them so I can read what you guys are saying in the comments. So they're not the best, but they're all right. They work. Right. So why I'm coming on tonight late? I was chatting to a couple of lads that I think it's safe to say they've probably done more for the movement in the background and doing security than anybody I know. And the two lads are Glenn Saffer and Andy Saxon. And Glenn, I hadn't spoken to Glenn for ages, and he phoned me up today and he started talking about the hotel protests. And this is where you get crowd envy, because Safa said to me, he says, I've done these hotel protests. I've been doing them 2.5 years, and we had 10 people every single week in life. 10 people were out, 10 people were there. And by the way, just let me know you can all hear me. There we go. You can all hear me. He said 10 people every weekend, and that was it. He said, I was on the stage of giving up. And I said, you know what, Glenn? I says, we were exactly the same. I says, we were the same. We had 10 people. And then all of a sudden we were up to 100 people, and Glenn says 100. He says, I had 2,000 last week. So I have crowd envy. What can I say? But well done, Glenn. And that's at the Bowthorpe Hotel. I think it's a Bowthorpe Hotel in Norwich. And listen, the guys have been getting some heat down there. I think you all know James Harvey, and James he's only a young lad. He's been putting himself out there. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. Like all of us, he's made some mistakes along the way. But from what I've heard and what he said and what he's been arrested for, it's absolutely a miscarriage of justice, in my opinion. Horrendous. He just said something about migrants. I mean, that was it. Everybody's saying stuff about migrants. Even people on TV are saying stuff about migrants. People on TV are saying, get these people out. They're all doing things to our women, doing things to our children. Get them out. That's what Talk TV are saying that all the time. Talk Radio, GB News. So why James got nicked? It's purely and simply to intimidate people. Glenn's been getting some heat from the old bill. A lot of the lads up there have been. So if you're in Norwich, and I should have asked him. I'll find out and I'll post it, or I'll do it when I'm doing another video. But knowing Glenn, he's probably doing them every night of the week. But if you can get in touch with Glenn Saffer, and support him down there in Norwich. I mean, they're getting big numbers out there, and that's what's needed. And the thing is about all this as well, all of these protests, apart from a little bit of pushing and shoving, and that's all it was really at Epping. All of these protests have been totally peaceful. And then you look at what we're achieving, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, like I say, the one that I do in Bangor, the numbers have gone up tenfold. All right, Andy's went up 200%, but that's not Andy's. Glenn's went up 200%, but that's Norwich. They've nothing better to do down there in Norwich than go to demos. But no, it's fantastic. It's really, really encouraging. And so get down there, get down to Norwich, support Glenn. I'm sure he'll be posting stuff. He does a lot on Facebook. I don't really do Facebook because I'm banned for life. But he does a lot of stuff on Facebook, and he needs your support. He needs people down there. And the reality of this, I'm going to tell you something. See if Glenn had been with Tommy when he got into that, or Andy. If Glenn or Andy had been with Tommy when he got into that altercation in St Pancras Station, the outcome would have been totally different, because they would have took care of it. And that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I'm not going to say any more than that, but they would have took care of it. And both very, 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 very good lads. And this is what's happening all over the country. So if you're an activist and you know what's going on in the country, and Glenn and Andy have been doing this a lot longer than I have, and they know exactly what's going on. Obviously, they go right the way back to the EDL days. They know exactly what's going on in the country. They know exactly what's at stake. And now's the time for everybody to stand up. And the other thing is for everybody to come together. You know, I'm one of the things that's really annoyed me um, down the years that I've been doing this is the amount of division. And sometimes it's been my own fault. Sometimes I've been divisive, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I get that, but I think now what we've got to do, we've got to really put everything to one side, and we've all got to come together. And obviously, the ideal time to come together is Saturday the 30th. Listen, it's 10:30 at night, and I've been working all day. I've been running about trying to sort other stuff that I'll tell you about in a minute. But yeah, I think we've got to be there on Saturday the 13th of September. I think if we had 1 million people in London, now that amount of people in London creates its own problems, but they're good problems because you've got to find where to put 1 million people in London. So yes, well done to Glenn down in Norwich. I saw the stuff that's been going on down there. Glenn's been doing this a long time. He knows how to organise a demo. And I tell you what, that fella can speak. He is a good speaker, and he doesn't miss. When Glenn speaks, he doesn't miss. And again, should I say this? Yeah, I am going to say this. Glenn was saying, some of the stuff that people have been saying and they've been arrested for, and he's going, well, I know what people are saying on TV. I know what people are saying on other internet channels. He knows what he said. He knows what I've said. And these other people are getting arrested, which it seems to be for very, very minor things. By the way, guys, like and share this because obviously Andy said to me, he says, don't bother going on doing a live tonight. He says, wait till tomorrow. I says, no, if you do it now, you get, because everybody else has binned it. The only person that still does it after 10 o'clock is Maya Tusi. But everybody else is kind of, getting the Horlicks out and going to bed. So it's the best time to get to pick people up after the 9 o'clock watershed, when all the other YouTubers have gone to bed and are all tucked up. So what's this? There are two sides. I'm going to have a look at some of these comments. There are two sides, the educated and the great unwashed. Brits needs to study their MPs, parties, and what they. Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm going to talk about that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to tie all this together. I want to talk about what Andy's been doing, but I'm going to try and tie all this together pretty quickly. I'm going to try and show you guys a video here. If this goes wrong, I'm going to apologize in advance, but I'm going to try and show you a video from that's on Twitter. Let's have a look, see if we can get it. Okay, so there we go. Let me just check. Let me know you can see that. Okay, guys. Yeah. Okay, good stuff. And this was Glenn's hotel protest. I'm not sure when it was, but look at the size of the crowd there. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, all joking aside, Norwich is not a massive city. And to get that many people out is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Let me know you can hear me with that as well, guys, while I'm talking and that's playing in the background. So that's the sort of numbers that we're getting down there in Norwich. Absolutely phenomenal. Right, I want to talk about what Andy's been doing. So let's just get rid of that. Right. So, oh, you got me in widescreen now. How do I get back to the other thing? Doesn't matter. I'll stay like this. That's why I shouldn't do too many late night live streams, because it's bad enough doing them when you're not really tired. That's why I don't drink. Oh, what about this? I'm getting frightened. To say I love bacon. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to have a treat for everyone tomorrow because I'm going to post some sizzling bacon. I was cooking some bacon earlier on. I thought, do you know what? I need to video this because we need to take a stand just even by eating bacon. Eating bacon is now a sign of resistance. If you're eating if you're seen buying bacon in Tesco's or certainly in Waitrose, possibly in Aldi, definitely in Asda. If you're seen buying bacon in Asda, you can expect Prevent will have your details by the time you get through the checkout. No doubt in my mind. They'll be monitoring how many people particularly streaky bacon, because streaky bacon is the best sort of bacon you can get. So if you're buying streaky bacon with all that fat on it, you're going to be in prevent. Because that guy that got arrested for saying he liked bacon, now liking bacon is a sign of his extremism. It must be, if you're doing anything that is not halal, then I think you're going to end up in jail in Sharia Britain. That's what it's looking like. Yeah, no, it's kind of like garlic with vampires, isn't it? You know, if you put bacon on your doorpost, you can be absolutely guaranteed that that Abdul and Asif are not going to not going to come knocking. It's going to keep them away. Oh my word! Is that genuine? Asda. Well, you see, Asda, the two gentlemen that own Asda are from a certain demographic background, aren't they? So that would explain it. That would certainly explain it. England is a pathetic. I thought you said pathetic. I was going to block you there, English Cockney. I thought you said pathetic. England is a patriotic nation who loves bacon. Amen to that. It really is. It really is. Rashes and a big dog. Do you know what? I was doing some dog sitting for my daughter the other day, and in fact, actually, if you love bacon, post some bacon rashes in the comments. I want to see loads of bacon rashes from everybody that loves bacon. How can you not love bacon? How can you not? You know, bacon, sausages, pork. Yeah, pork scratchings. You know, do you know what? There's loads of protein in pork. I don't know why they don't eat pork. There's nothing wrong with pork. It might be a bit iffy if you're living in the desert, but if you're living in the UK, there's nothing wrong with pork. Look at that. That's some bacon fans there. Right now, before I forget, I'm going to post Andy Saxon. Right, there's been all this stuff about the flags, and I forgot all about this. I was talking to Andy a couple of months ago, and he just said to me in passing, he says, we're out putting flags up. This was a couple of months ago, and I totally forgotten about it. And then I was talking to him the other day, and he says, do us a favor. He says, give us a shout out for this flag thing we're doing. And I realized Andy was one of the men who started the Raising the Colours protest. It was a whole lot of lads in the West Midlands. I'm not saying exactly where. A whole lot of lads in the West Midlands. All right, I'm going to say it. The West Brom lads, right? A whole lot of West Brom lads were sitting in a pub on a Sunday afternoon, pretty hacked off with everything that was going on. I think Tommy was still in prison. Everyone was really, down in the dumps. And they suddenly decided that they were going to start putting flags up everywhere. And that's what they've been doing ever since. So we know who the guy is who's responsible for all this. And I'm going to do it. I'll probably do another video on it tomorrow if I get the chance. In fact, I'm going to do another video on it tomorrow because I want to put the QR code and all that sort of stuff in there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the link to Andy's. It's not Andy's. It's the Buy Me a Coffee for the group that are basically buying the flags. And I'm going to drop the link in the comments, because obviously as soon as they're putting the flags up in Birmingham, they're trying to rip them down. And even if they're not ripping them down, obviously these lads are going to have flags in every corner of the West Midlands, and it's spreading everywhere. In fact, Northern Ireland is the flag, as they say over here, the flag capital of the world. I mean, we put more flags up and burn more flags than anybody else. We put them up, we take them down, we get told to take them down. So there's flags everywhere in Northern Ireland. When I first came to live in Northern Ireland, we used to put a flag outside our house, and then nobody else did it. So we kind of stopped doing it just because of the street we live in. But I think I'm going to start putting a flag out again, and I think they should stay up all year round. Because in Northern Ireland, you kind of put the flags up and they stay on the lampposts. But they used to have flagpoles, and every single house in Northern Ireland used to have an Ulster, if it was in a Protestant area, an Ulster flag or a Union Jack flying from the front of the house, just on a little tiny, I don't know what we hold it, flag holder. So, I mean, to see it happening in England is absolutely, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. I did a speech years ago, and I did that little song a few months ago called "Where Are the Men of England?" Tommy's playing it quite a bit on his Twitter, and I was really, really frustrated that people in England weren't standing up. Everybody I talk to now in England is doing something. Everybody in Northern Ireland's doing something. Again, I'm not sure what's happening in Scotland because I haven't got too many contacts across there. Because the Scottish and the English have a bit of history, but Northern Ireland and England, they're walking in step together. Everybody's doing stuff. In Northern Ireland, we've got a protest outside the Marine Court Hotel every Friday, 7 o'clock, banger, bottom of the seafront there, Marine Court Hotel. And again, we're getting about 100 people there every week now. And we're doing other stuff as well. I'm not going to go into it, but there's other stuff that we're doing as well, which is very positive. Obviously, we're not doing anything illegal. It's all peaceful. But the stuff that we're doing and the stuff that we're all getting involved in. So things are happening in Belfast. There's stuff. Obviously, we know about the stuff that's going on in East Belfast, but there's stuff going on in other parts of Belfast as well, where people are walking around just to make sure everything's okay. Just keeping an eye on everything. Not anything aggressive, not anything wrong, nothing illegal. But there's people doing that sort of stuff. Ballymena, they've got things planned. Chimney Corner, there's people going up to Chimney Corner. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. In fact, no, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to post this link to Andy's groups Buy Me a Coffee. So just bear with me 2 seconds, guys, while I grab this. Where are we? Okay. So look. Here we go. Okay. Operation Raise the Colours. And let's have a look. So let me post this in here. There we go. Right, so there you go. Grab that link, dive on there, because obviously these flags do cost money, and they're buying them by the hundreds. And they're out at all hours posting these things. I mean, I think the best one was the guy that was painting the roundabout when the police turned up, and he's just painting a big England flag on a roundabout, and then the guy that painted the pothole put an England flag in a pothole, saying, "Well, listen, we know for a fact they're going to come and fill that one in." So it's absolutely superb, and I'm so proud of my fellow Englishmen. And I want to talk a little bit about. Let's have a look at this. Now, again, I want to be very clear about anything I say about Advance. I am not a spokesman. I'm not on the college. I am just a member, and I want to keep it that way because I've got that much other stuff going on. So are they standing candidates in next year's council elections? I don't think they will. I don't know. I'm not going to comment on it because I don't know. But I think the big prize for Advance is working towards the general election. And the people I do know a lot of people that are very senior in I suppose leadership, in the college, etc. And obviously I know Ben, and they're in it to win. They're not in this to get a few seats at the next general election. They want to be in a position at the next general election to win the election. And that might sound crazy, but if you'd looked at reform, in fact, if you still look at reform, that's water, by the way. If you'd looked at reform, you'd have said, no, there's no chance that reform are going to be in a position where they look like they're going to challenge for the next general election. In the opinion polls, reform are absolutely storming it. I know there might be reform people in the comments. There might be reform people watching. I don't want to offend anybody, but reform are not for me. To me, the only party and the only leader of a party that I trust is Ben Habib, and that's not denigrating anybody else. I know Ben. I know his integrity, his humility, his honesty, and I think Ben is the man to lead this country. I genuinely believe that. And all that we're doing now, what we're doing, the England I knew when I started doing this 8 years ago has gone. And England is a lot more like Northern Ireland. In fact, it's more like Northern Ireland than Northern Ireland is at the minute, because Northern Ireland's still got a little bit of waking up to do. That's another story that I'm not going to go into. But there's a lot of people in Northern Ireland that are not awake to this yet. And they will be. Unfortunately, it'll be too late. I think I've said this before on this stream. We had a situation last Thursday, where we could have been sitting looking at Southport. We could have been sitting mourning something horrendous happening in this town when this guy, I'm not going to say his name again, but this guy on the scene from a very, very, certainly from a background that would have a lot of jihadists in it. And this guy was probably roaming about with knives and possibly swords, allegedly. So, we could have been looking at a Southport. And sooner or later, something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. As sure as night follows day. When you're bringing people into your country that you know nothing about, really and truthfully, right? See what's happening with these boats and this mass invasion by illegals into our country. It is unbelievable that these people are coming in. They're not vetted. They've got all sorts of ill intent. Not all of them. Of course, there's going to be some decent people come in. But why take the risk? If we're bringing in hundreds of thousands of people, which we have, and we haven't vetted them, a lot of them are coming from war zones. A lot of them will have seen atrocities, carried out atrocities. You could have every psycho, every drug dealer, every deviant coming across on those boats. As long as they've got enough money to pay the ferryman, that's all they need. And they're in. And the government and the media, some sections of the media, the lefty media, the BBC, Sly News. I was seeing something, some absolute rat of a woman wrote an article in the Evening Standard. She writes for The Guardian. She writes for I think for The Independent as well. Just disgusting, attacking patriots and slagging off patriots. So we need to win this. If we don't win this, we will lose our country. And we do need to have a very, very tough immigration policy. And we do need to deport a lot of people. And we do need to close the borders. And we do need to clamp down on people that are enemies of the United Kingdom. And again, I get a lot of stick from the ethno-nats. I really don't care about the color of your skin. I genuinely care about what you believe. Are you a Christian? Do you believe in Christian values, even if you're not a Christian? Are you a cultural Christian or a genuine Christian? Either way, that's what I want to see in the country. People who have Christian morals and Christian principles. People who support and love the United Kingdom, love our history. That disgusting individual, Kehendi Andrews, was on another one of his race baiting rants. I haven't even watched it, but I just read the gist of what he said. Absolutely disgusting. That man's a professor I think he's in Birmingham University. One of the most despicable individuals and an absolute racist and a race baiter. Same as that dreadful Sikh woman. And again, I think with Sikhs, there's some really, really good Sikhs who are massively patriotic, love the country, and basically stand against the demographic which we can't name on YouTube. But there's the odd one that I come across that are real lefty. I suppose you get that in every section of society, and I find that surprising because obviously they've suffered a lot at the hands of the people that don't like to eat bacon and don't like alcohol. But yeah, so I think what's happening in the UK is absolutely incredible in terms of people just waking up to what's been happening. And I think it's because the government made the fatal mistake of, you think about Lord of the Rings and the Shire, right? Well, what happened was, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble for this. What happened was, if anyone knows the story of the Lord of the Rings, okay, what happened was that the government went to Sauron and said, "I tell you what, give us all your orcs and send them across on little boats, and we'll drop them into the Shire." So all the nice little hobbits that were living in the Shire, minding their own business, making money, doing what they do, going to the pub, marrying, having kids and all the stuff, making a good life for themselves in the Shire. Well, they got a whole lot of orcs dropped in the midst of them. And, they didn't like it. And it's going to absolutely cost not only this Labour government. I believe, listen, don't trust Robert Jenrick, okay? Robert Jenrick is not to be trusted. When you look at what he did when he was immigration minister, you look at his rhetoric, and again, I'll grab the clip at some point and I'll replay that clip again of what Robert Jenrick said to Stephen Farry when he was answering a question that Farry had about our protests. You know, these goose-stepping far-right Nazis that were running about trying to get these poor innocent asylum seekers evicted from a hotel. You know, that was us. And Robert Jenrick said, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to set the security service on them and the police. You know, we're going to clamp down on the far right." Now Jenrick's now going to hotel demonstrations. It's great that he's had a road to Damascus experience, but I don't believe him. It's as simple as that. Never trust a Tory. That's one thing the lefties had right. Never trust a Tory. Now, having said that, there are some good ones. Suella Braverman, Liz Truss, Nick Timothy. I think her name's Caccino, one of the other MPs. So there are some good Tory MPs. And that guy that made that amazing speech, I can't remember his name, but the fellow that made the speech about Christianity. There are some good ones. But I do not trust Robert Jenrick. He's vying for leadership. He's going to pretend that the party's going to the right, and then he'll do what the Tories always do, and he'll betray you. Simple as that. I don't trust Farage. Like I say, the only show in town to me is Advance UK. But what I'm sensing, and we're not go too much into the politics because we all know all about that. What I'm sensing is that people are coming together, and this is what you need when you're coming together. You need something to unify around, and of course, if it's just get the migrants out, get the illegals out. Okay, I get that, but it needs to be a lot deeper than that. And that's where the pledge comes in. And I keep going on about the pledge, and I'm going to keep going on about the pledge. I'm just going to try and pop this back up here. 536 people watching at 11 o'clock at night, and that is pretty impressive that we've got that many people watching. I do appreciate everybody that's watching. Right, let's have a look, see how I can get this. Have we got it back? No, I need to put it in. There we go. Okay. If you haven't signed the pledge, dive on there, sign up. Somebody put a comment in one of my videos today saying, pity nothing's happened with the pledge. I think they're misunderstanding what the pledge is. The pledge is an ideological statement that people make. So it's not like Unite the Kingdom. It's not like the thing, where they're all having all these demos. I can't remember the name of it. They're having all these demos up and down the country. It's not about that. I mean, actually, there's probably too many movements doing that. Well, no, you can't have too many movements doing that. But that's not what the pledge is about. The pledge is an ideology that you sign up to, and if you've signed up to it, it's because you believe in those principles. Come a general election, we can then email all the MPs, because we've got all their email addresses. We can email all the MPs saying, this is the pledge. We've got so many people in your constituency. Do you believe? And this is the whole reason it was set up. So it's not set up to have meetings all the time and to do stuff. It is literally the ideology for the movement. And it came out of a workshop that Carl Benjamin was at, Maya Tusi, Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, Lawrence Fox, Father Calvin Robinson, Paul Thorpe, Jeff Taylor, loads of other people, me, David Rhodes. So there was a lot of Jordan Peterson came as well. So there's a lot of very, very bright people in that room, and the pledge came out of that. So that's what it's about. It's basically, it's an ideology. And of course, you might not agree with the ideology, but it's not something that's there to promote any one party. I mean, we shared Advance's webpage a few weeks ago, and of course that upset some people. But the reason we did that is that Advance absolutely, completely, to a man, believe in the principles that are in the pledge. Because if you look at Advance's mission statement, it's so similar to the pledge that it's not normal. Now, I've said this, and I mean this when I say this. If Advance deviate from what's in the pledge, then we would have to call them out on it and say, look, these guys they're not doing what the pledge says, and that's the whole point. So if you sign the pledge or you've signed the pledge, we are keeping in touch. I mean, because we're all busy, we're getting emails out probably once a month. We've got I think we're up to about 62,000 viable email addresses now, which is great. Obviously, that goes up and down because some people unsubscribe, other people subscribe, so it's pretty static. But I'd still love to get that up to 1 million people, because if we had 1 million people there, then come the next general election, you can have massive influence. And I'm really annoyed, and I'm actually disgusted, to be honest with you, that people have said that we're data harvesting. We have never once asked for money from the pledges mailing list. Right? I'm not saying we never will, because we might need money at some point for a different project, but we've never once asked for money. It's cost me and the other men that basically administer the pledge and look after the pledge, sort of guardians of it. It's cost us thousands of pounds, and it's cost me I don't know how many hours, because I'm not a professional web designer. I'm not an expert at IT and email infrastructure, but we've been basically doing all that, funding it ourselves, and then to have sinister actors accusing us of data harvesting, I find extremely annoying. And again, it's just another. There's so many people that are good at pointing fingers and jabbing fingers into people's chest. And there was even, well, I'm not going to go into it, but it just annoys me, because I know how much work people have put into this, and I know how much work I've put into this. And those sort of attacks, they're ill-informed at least, and I think they're mischievous at best. So yeah, the pledge is very important in this battle, because again, Advance are making all the right noises, they're doing all the right things. I've joined. I believe Ben is a man of integrity. Ben signed the pledge publicly last year with Peter Whittle and several other, Andrew Bridgen. Who else was there? Wendell. So we had a good crowd of people all signed the pledge. Paul Thorpe, Jeff Taylor, all signed the pledge last year publicly. We filmed it, but the pledge is really important. Now, we could promote it a bit more, I suppose. We could push it a bit more, but it's getting the time and the finances to do it. But it's about the ideology. So if you're on the pledge, please share it, because it's really important. The more people we can get signed up to that, the more we can hold our politicians to account. Because it's all well and good political parties saying, well, we've got these checks and balances in place. Well, okay, but we've got our check and balance, which is the pledge. And that, to me, is, and I've always said this, sits above party politics. And I'll always try and be involved in party politics, because I think that's really important. And everybody, so there's a few things I would suggest everyone does. First of all, sign the pledge, as I've just said. Second thing is register to vote. Get yourself on the electoral register. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the whole idea of electoral politics. It's the only way that we're going to change anything here. By the way, I'm just going to turn that light on in the background. Not for any other reason than I just think it looks nice. So sign the pledge, get on the electoral register. And again, my advice is join Advance UK. I'm not a party political person. And again, obviously I've done UKIP twice. And I was actually looking back at when we did the deal with Gerard Batten and other senior people in UKIP back in 2000. I think it was February 2018. It started off in, first met Gerard in October 2017 with John Meehan, who was the spokesman for the football lads then. And obviously there was a whole lot of splits and stuff went on. But Gerard really got the threat to the UK and what demographic it came from and what the problem was. And there is two, we know that we talked about this last night, the communists and the Islamists are the two big threats and the globalists are the threats that the UK faces. And Gerard got that back in 2017. Farage either didn't get it or deliberately sabotaged everything. And if Gerard had stayed as leader of UKIP, we would have a party now that would be in a very powerful position. And in fact, actually, I think UKIP would be even bigger than Reform now. I think UKIP would probably be holding the balance of power in this country if everything that we had back in 2017, 2018 had been followed through. But the problem is it wasn't. And it's almost like history's repeating itself. And, you know, Tommy got involved in UKIP. He was a spokesman. But the difference between UKIP and Advance is Tommy couldn't join UKIP because he'd been in the EDL, and because he'd been in the BNP. Because even under Gerard, UKIP still had that crazy rule that if you'd been in any of these blacklisted political parties, you couldn't get in. Now, Reform were even worse because Reform added moderate parties like For Britain to that forbidden list. So if you remember of For Britain, which was by no means an extremist party, it was, my goodness, it was, you know, Anne-Marie Waters is probably one of the least extreme people you'll meet. She was very, very liberal. I mean, I would have disagreed with her on many, many of her political issues. But in terms of Islamism or Islam, we all agreed. And that's why For Britain was such a, you know, again, it was a shame what happened with For Britain. But now we've got something that is viable. I mean, I tried UKIP again, and I'm no disrespect to UKIP. Though, I mean, to be honest with you, the way members of UKIP and senior members of UKIP have attacked the pledge and attacked me is absolutely disgusting. But I'm not going to fire back at them. There's plenty of mud I could sling, believe you me. But I'm not going to do that because they're just not important enough for me to do it. But Advance UK is everything that Reform should have been. It's everything that UKIP could have been. It's everything that For Britain would have been if it hadn't folded. So to me, Advance UK is the real deal. Ben's the real deal. And again, we've got checks and balances. If they let us down, we've got the pledge and we'll call them to account through the pledge. We'll say, hold on, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. These are things in the pledge. We've got a responsibility to people that sign the pledge, and we will call them to account. I will speak to people in advance if they're going off the rails and say, well, this is what the pledge says. We've asked our people to support your party because you're aligned with the pledge. You've deviated from it. And I know that you might say, well, I'm being very arrogant. There's only 60,000 members on it. Well, there's a long time between now and 2029. If we get ourselves up to 1 million members in the pledge, we could certainly influence elections. And even in marginal seats, you can have massive influence, even with a few hundred people in marginal seats. So the pledge is mightily important. And I just wanted to go through that because, again, it's been something that's been annoying me. By the way, guys, and this isn't me being a beg, right? I have a feeling that YouTube are messing me about with super chats, okay? Because I'm not seeing anything coming through unless it's actually coming through on the channels on Counter Media itself. So if you're on Counter Media and you've tried to send a super chat and it hasn't worked, if you could let me know, that'd be really appreciated. I'm going to have a quick look at the channel now and see what's going on with it, because it does seem there's something a little bit amiss. It was a couple of the moderators and somebody else mentioned it the other day, saying, "Oh, we're trying to get this, and we can't. We're trying to get you super chats, and we can't seem to get them through." Just bear with me. Okay, let's have a look. So I'm just going to mute this. Okay. No, I just okay. It doesn't look like any super chats are getting blocked. It just doesn't seem like anyone's done any super chats. So that's fair enough. Okay, that's fine. Right, let's dive back into these comments again. See what people are saying. It's too late for Canada. It's never too late, guys. It's never too late. You can listen. You've got America right next to you with in Canada. So yeah, Bon, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Okay. By the way, for the flag guys, if you go into the comments on both YouTube channels, you'll get the links. The other thing I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to be trying to get more people across onto Counter Media. Okay, guys, brilliant. Fantastic, guys. Thanks very much for that. That means I know it's working. Okay, so Shell, thanks very much for that. That's really appreciated. I wasn't begging, by the way, when I said that. So but I do appreciate everyone that's just chipped in there a little bit. But that's great. Super sticker, superb. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Kelly. Right, great, guys. That's great. So, okay. Signed the pledge a few weeks ago. That's brilliant, Danny. Keep sharing the pledge, because, like I say, it is important. I mean, we are doing it. We're doing it literally on a shoestring, or less than a shoestring, and I'm not kidding. There's nobody has funded the pledge. We've done it all ourselves. There's 4 of us involved. And again, it was basically came out of that big meeting that we had actually, it was the same meeting that the Unite the Kingdom movement came out of. Both of the pledge and the Unite the Kingdom movement came out of the same meeting. And Father Calvin Robinson, we have got to give credit where credit's due. He was just sitting there, and we were talking about, what do we call these events? What do we call the demos? And Father Calvin says, Unite the Kingdom. Just one line. And he said, because it's not just about uniting the United Kingdom, it's about uniting the kingdom of God. And that's why I believe there's a spiritual emphasis in the Unite the Kingdom movement, because it's not just about bringing the UK together. It's about bringing us together spiritually. You look at, we've had preachers at everything. We had those guys praying the Lord's Prayer at the first Unite the Kingdom thing. We've had the gospel band. We've obviously got Tommy getting involved in Christianity and basically promoting Christianity, which again is, it's absolutely, to me, that's absolutely fantastic. And the reality is, every single one of us is on a spiritual journey in this movement, and it's a roller coaster. You can be up and down like a yo-yo, but the truth is, God's faithful. God's faithful. When we're not faithful, God's faithful. And if we keep going on, we keep pressing on, God will be with us. And I believe that God's in this movement. I believe that God's in the Unite the Kingdom movement. And I think it's so important that we stand together. We stand together, under God. Oh, Pauline, again, thanks for that. Do you know what, Pauline? Do you know what my wife said? Where's Pauline? She actually noticed that you weren't in the comments on Saturday night. So yeah. Gary Belfast. I only know of Freedom Dad. Well, I live in Bangor, Marty. So not too far away. And like I say, we're doing our demo every Friday night down here in Bangor. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. Okie dokie. You had me until you brought religion into it, but no, listen, Richard. Look, I'm not trying to ram religion down your throat. I'm unapologetic about what I believe, but if you're an atheist, you should be unapologetic about your atheism. That's fine. I'm not going to attack you for it. I disagree with you, and I debate you till the cows come home on why I think you're wrong. But no, if you love the country, that's what it's about. It's about loving your country and identifying with what this country's really about. And the truth is, you can't get away from Christianity then if you're looking at that. So, but no, I'm not going to try and convert anybody. It's God that does that, not me. Amen. God is always faithful. God is always faithful. Absolutely. Yeah, he's absolutely doing a great job. I was chatting to Mark way back when he was in Scotland, and he started his channel probably, well, I noticed him probably about 18 months ago, I think. And he's come a heck of a long way. He's doing really well. And he's getting out there. And he was, he's putting himself in positions where, it's dangerous for all sorts of reasons. And, no, he is. He's doing a great job. He's doing a really, really good job. Okay. There you go, Pauline. We're all special, aren't we? We're all special. And I was going to say something else, but I'll get myself in trouble. But yeah, we are all special. I sent you a few quid. Oh, thanks for that. Yes, brilliant. I really appreciate that. Pending for 5 days. Oh, that's weird. I don't think it would be being monitored. But I got that. So I think that was sent on the 14th. Thanks because one of the things is, it's difficult to identify who's sending stuff and who's because the names on YouTube are quite often different to the names on what's the word I'm looking for? PayPal. I'm getting too tired to be doing this at 11:15 at night, but I'll keep going. You don't have to be a Christian. No, you don't. You don't have to be a Christian at all. You don't have to be. I mean, I would, I think it'd be great if everyone was Christian, right? But it's not about that. Nobody's trying to ram Christian. Listen, and I've said this 1,000 times. I am the weakest, most pathetic Christian you'll ever come across, and I'm not saying that in false humility. I know what I am, and I know what I should be. So I'm not. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to push Christianity on anyone. I believe in Jesus and was third baby ever, but my goodness. Yeah, well, Ian Paisley was some operator. Ian Paisley was some operator, and look, I mean, at the end of the day, Christianity is a lot bigger than just church attendance, isn't it? If you believe in Christ and you genuinely believe that Jesus Christ is God and He died for your sins, then you see, there's a difference between believing in Christ. It's whether you believe He's actually the Savior of the world, I suppose, isn't it? That's the thing. Yeah, I think Kelly, we're all like that. We're all pretty much in the naughty corner most of the time. Come over to the dark side, Claire. We have cookies and giggles. Oh man, Gary Belfast, big up Freedom Dad 73. Thanks, Richard. You're also well. Thanks for that, Gary. Listen, we're all in this together, and that's what I was saying to the lads earlier on. I mean, Andy, and Glenn. I'm just, Andy Saxon is one of the most. He just doesn't push himself forward. He just does his business. He does what needs to be done, and he does it very, very well. And he is a very, very good lad to have on side, and he is he is loyal to Tommy, the most loyal man to Tommy that I think you'll ever come across. If Tommy needs help, Andy's there for him. And Glenn's the same. Two really staunch, solid lads. And the fact that they're doing exactly the same things as we're doing over here in England at the same time, totally independently, speaks volumes. Because to me, this is getting repeated all over the United Kingdom. But the fact that it's Andy that's behind the flags thing, I think is brilliant. And it was we were laughing the other day because somebody said to him, he was putting something up about the flags, and some guy messaged him, said, "Oh, make sure you credit us with that. We started the flags thing." And of course, Andy just ignored it and laughed. You know what I mean? But everybody wants to claim everything. But I said to Andy, I says, "Look, Andy, can I go on the channel and tell people that it was you that started the flags thing in England, because it is something to be proud of. I think it's a brilliant thing that's been going on there." So, anyways, let's keep going. Okay. Never stop believing, folks. There's more on heaven and earth than we can possibly know. Isn't that right? Isn't that just the truth? Isn't that just the truth? And look, this is the fight of our lives, and we've got to. We're navigating a very, very narrow margin. I mean, I had the police at my door last Thursday. Was it Thursday or Friday? I think it was. Can't remember. Could have been Friday. Maybe it's Friday lunchtime, was it? Can't remember, but they were out my door. And to me, right, they're sending you a message. When they come out to your house and say, "Oh, have you got any plans to change what you're doing on Friday night?" It was just a little sort of, "We're watching you," Now, if I was a criminal, if I was doing something illegal, if I was a terrorist or a wrong'un, well, that's fair enough, having the police come out to your house. But I haven't been arrested since I was in the military when I was 18. That was a pub fight when I was 18-year-old with some Paras, and imagine the Paras going squealing at the cops. But yeah, that was the last time. That was the last time I was arrested, and I think it was. Haven't been arrested since. So why the police coming out to my house, an upstanding member of the community, to ask what we're doing on a Friday night? It's a peaceful protest. It's none of their business what we're doing. It's none of the police's business. If I wanted to walk around Bangor every night with 4 or 5 mates, just making sure everybody was safe, it's none of their business. As long as I'm not molesting anyone or attacking anyone or assaulting anyone. And this is how sinister the state has got. And don't get me wrong, the police was perfectly polite, wasn't threatening, but it is none of their business. As long as we're keeping what we do within the law, it's none of their business. But of course, now you've got all these crazy hate speech laws, which, the first person I saw really getting snarled up in this was Pastor McConnell. I think it was about 2013, 14, where he was talking about the religion that cannot be named, that has a paedophile as its leader, and seems to have caused all sorts of problems for the last 1400 years. But so Pastor McConnell, one of the biggest churches in Northern Ireland, and it really destroyed his ministry. It really destroyed his ministry. And the way that man was, I think it's safe to say, betrayed by people, because he took a stand against the religion of peace. I'm saying that sarcastically. And he was quite elderly at the time. I think he must have been pushing 70, or maybe he's over 70. And they were willing to send that man to prison. It was, and who got round him? Who attacked him? Well, all the usual suspects. Stephen Nolan dragged him onto his show. The Belfast Telegraph, Sinn Féin, Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness happily came toddling out of the Belfast Islamic Centre with a Quran under his arm. Liam Clark, who actually I quite like. Liam Clark. He's passed away, but he used to seem quite fair. But again, other people had different opinions on him. But I quite liked him. But they all went at him. They all went at Pastor McConnell and tried to destroy his ministry. Now, he had a great legacy, and as a very, very good friend of mine was pretty much raised up for the purpose of helping and looking after Pastor McConnell. So we're living in very dark times, and Pastor McConnell, when he said what he said, he was a prophetic voice. He was a voice in the wilderness, a voice crying in the wilderness, and I think it's very, very sad. And that's what we're looking at. And look at the amount of preachers that have been arrested. Of course, the case went nowhere. The case failed because it was a ridiculous case. But no, they fired a massive shot across everybody's bows when they arrested Pastor McConnell. Yeah, exactly. And that says everything you need to know about George W. Bush as well. And back in the day, whenever 9/11 happened, I thought, oh, Bush is a great guy. He's got this, But you look at the outcomes, particularly from Iraq. Look at the way the war in Iraq completely destabilized the entire Middle East and allowed Al Qaeda elements, ISIS, Al Qaeda in Iraq, to actually take over large chunks of that country, large parts of Syria, and now they're in total control of Syria, and the Americans are still signing off on it. I'm not going to say any more than that because I know there's probably a lot of Trump fans in the comments, but America's track record in Syria, Iraq, and the Brits, America and the Brits, Libya, totally destabilizing. Yes, there were dictatorships. Yes, they had bad men in control of them, but the reality is the war in Iraq was a complete lie, and I think maybe 500,000 Iraqis have now died since that war that wouldn't have died. The country has been completely devastated and destroyed. Islamists of different shades have massive amount of power, and that's what we did. I remember hearing General Flynn talking to Mehdi Hassan. It must have been 2014, 2015, when ISIS was first getting its boots on, and he said, "This is the CIA that created ISIS." He says, "Our actions have created this, not just indirectly, but directly, by funding groups like the Al-Nusra Front and some of those other jihadist groups that were attacking the Assad regime." Now, the rights and wrongs of that, you can argue over that forever, but there's a lot going on that we are not fully understanding what the agendas are and who's doing what. Yeah, and I mean, from a Northern Ireland point, Gaddafi was a monster. He supplied the IRA with huge amounts of weaponry, But I'm going to tell you something. I'm very worried about the connection between the IRA and Hamas. When I talk about the IRA, I'm talking about Sinn Féin. I'm very concerned about the connection between Sinn Féin and Islamists because, again, it's that radicalizing, that self-radicalizing circle, the vicious circle. So they're feeding into each other's narratives, and that's why you get so many Republicans supporting the Palestinian cause. They don't really know anything about it. They don't. I think most of them, if you said, "Well, did you know that Jews have basically inhabited Israel for at least 3,000 years, and that's on the lower end of the scale. If you believe exactly what the Bible says, which I do, it's 3,800 years. If you're looking at Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and then Moses, it's 3,800 years that there's been that the family. And the other thing you got to remember is the Jewish people are a family, and there is a massive history book called the Torah or the Old Testament, which tells you everything about them. That's their title deeds. The Bible is the Jewish people's title deeds to Israel. So the Palestinians have no business being there, to be brutally honest with you. There's plenty of Arab countries, but that little tiny sliver of land that the Israelis have died and bled over for the past goodness knows how many years, that was covenanted to them by God. And I don't think anyone can dispute with that. If you believe in the Bible, I can't understand Christians that are against Israel. Because if you believe the Bible, God gave them the land. Now, if you don't believe the Bible, that's another thing. I know there'll be a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a fanatic, Richard," but maybe so. But I just believe what it says. Yeah, absolutely. Freedom Dad, CJ Audits, both good lads. And again, if you're praying, people pray for Pinky, because Pinky's having a time of it at the minute. He's been arrested, and I honestly think, again, this is another show trial. This is another one of these show trials, and it's not good. Guys, share this a bit, because for some reason the numbers are dropping, and I want to try and get more people watching these videos, because I think it's important that we continually re-educate each other, because we get so much of this crazy stuff coming on the mainstream media, which I never watch anymore. But we've got to keep reaffirming what we're about and what we're doing. I was on holiday in Turkey, and on an excursion to historical sites, they took us to what they said to be the oldest mosque. Everyone went in except me. I could not bring myself to step in. You're right. Now, the other thing is, here's the thing, Angela. Turkey, if you look in the book of Revelation, I think all the churches, is it all the churches in the book of Revelation? I'm pretty sure it is, or nearly all the churches, the 7 churches, are in Turkey. And that is now I think it's 90% Muslim now, right? That used to be Christian. That was Christian until Islam came flying out of Arabia in whenever it was, the 7th century, and started conquering every country that it set foot in. Turkey was a Christian country. So yeah, I mean, this is what happens. This is what happens when you surrender to might, and when you divide it. And this is why our movement needs to be united. And I know there are wrong uns, right? Maybe they watch these videos, maybe they don't. I know there are people that are plotting against everything that we do and everything we stand for, right? And these are people that once walked among us, but they weren't of us. They walked with us, but they were traitors, and they proved themselves to be traitors. Bitter, evil, spineless, bullying cowards who are plotting against our movement. Now, I know that's happening. And, well, let's just see how they end up. Let's just see if it works for them. Because what they don't understand is God's on our side. And what we're trying to do is right and righteous. Are any of us perfect? Absolutely not. We're all completely flawed, wrecked, and ruined human beings. But these people that are plotting against us have got to realize that what we're doing is a righteous cause. And you need to be very careful when you plot against something that is right and something that is true. But right, let's have a look at some more of these comments, and then I'm going to call it a day. Shows me how rubbish and so much. Oh, yes. Right. Okay, guys. This is what I was going to say. If you want to get the hotels in your area closed down and your council is not amenable to that, if you know anybody that's on benefits that is willing to take a court case, they should be able to get legal aid. You just need to find a good solicitor that can get them the legal aid, and then they can take a case against the hotel for misuse of its property. And I think if every single hotel has 2 or 3 people taking cases against it, that is going to make a massive, because a lot of the councils won't do it because they're all lefty, sellout, traitor scumbags, right? But you'll have patriots in your town. If you've got a hotel in your town, there'll be patriots in your town that can actually take a legal case. So that's the next step. If we have mass legal action against these hotels for misuse, but that's only one part of it. So what happens, and I said this to my local MP, I was talking to my local MP about this a while back. He said, oh, the hotels are going to close, you know. I went, yeah, and then what? And he was like, well, then the problem's gone. I says, no, the problem's moved. And that's what we've got to understand. When the hotels close, they will fast track these people. They will give them passports. They will give them the golden, I've said this time and time again, they will give them the golden ticket. They will give them a life where they never have to work. They never have to do anything. They get money free from the government. You know, it's like a little slot machine. They go to the bank of mum and dad, except it's not mum and dad. It's your mum and your dad and your kids that are going to be acting as bank and mum and dad for these invaders. And that's what the government are going to do. That's what they're going to do. They're going to allow these people to stay. They're going to give them passports. None of them are going to get deported. They're all going to get fast tracked, and then they're all going to be in the community. And so what you need to do when that happens is, when the next government comes in, whoever that is, and hopefully it'll be a Vance, they need to pass emergency legislation, and they need to scrutinize every single passport application for however many people are given the right to stay. And if any of them are found to have lied, if there's been any fraud, the people who've carried out the fraud need to be prosecuted, and the illegals that have come here with no reason to be here and that have got a golden ticket, they need to have their passport taken off them, and they need to be deported from whence they came. Simple as that. That's what needs to happen. And if that doesn't happen, if the next party that wins the election doesn't do that at some point, then they're not going to be in government very long. So that has to happen, because these people have to go. We cannot have people who are doing things to our wives and daughters, who are leering at people, who are threatening people, who are being violent, who are stabbing people. You know, Blue, that wee lad that was stabbed outside the nightclub. I think I'm not sure if he was with his wife, but he had a young family, murdered for his watch by some scumbag. And I don't know who the scumbag was, but I say it's a pretty good educated guess that he probably wasn't born in this country. And if he was born in this country, his parents weren't. I don't think that would be too far from the truth, right? Because that's just the kind of demographic of the little scooter gangs that run around London. We all know who they are. So if those people hadn't come to this country, he'd still be alive. And that's happened countless times. Then you look at what's happening in Bournemouth, where there's like patrols been raised in Bournemouth to stand up against what's happening in Bournemouth. We've got to keep this fight going. If we win, the Epping case, for example, because obviously I think it's been appealed. It's basically, as far as I know, the government will fight back against it. But even if we win that, it's only half the story. So the celebrations are premature. A small battle, a skirmish, has been almost won. But the only victorious battle will be when these people are put on boats, put on planes, and shipped out of this country. It's as simple as that. And I won't settle for anything less. And I won't settle for a government that settles for anything less. We can't rest on our laurels and allow this to happen. We've got to make this happen. And we've got to keep the pressure on. We've got to keep the people on the street, keep it peaceful, showed what mass peaceful protest can do. And we've got to keep the pressure on. We've got to keep going through the winter. And even if these hotels close, we've got to keep focus on where they're going, because this is where the big deception will go in. This is where the big con will go in. Once those hotels close and those focal points have gone, That will take a lot of energy out of the protest, and they will be put into different communities in HMOs. It's going to be a lot more difficult to prove that the people that are attacking our wives and daughters are the invaders, because they'll all have British passports. They'll all be getting benefits. They'll all be getting looked after. They'll be getting little jobs here and there, but they shouldn't be here because they came here illegally. That's my whole point. They just shouldn't be here. They should not be allowed to stay in our country. They are criminals because they broke into the country. They're squatters and they need to go. I don't want Afghan illegals who we know have extreme views, who we know have a high propensity for attacks on women and girls and boys and young boys. We know that. It's part of their culture. We know what they believe. I don't want them here. I want them gone. And I think I can speak for probably at least 70% of the British population. And I don't want that religion here either. And I know I can speak for at least 52% of the British population when I say that. And then you've got their population, 32% of them want Sharia law. 50% of them think it should be illegal to insult Muhammad. We are building a divided society. And the only way to deal with it is to take the problem away. And I'm talking about totally peacefully. It's got to be done. As tough as it sounds and as harsh as it sounds, it's got to be done. The problem has to be taken out of the way. And I'm absolutely not talking about by violent means, but there's got to be a way to get rid of people that have come into this country illegally, and to get rid of people that want to harm this country, whether they're jihadis, whether they're part of the grooming gangs, whatever they are. To me, jihadis, grooming gangs, anybody that's going on those Hamas marches, they all need to go. They all need to go. Anybody that's supporting what Hamas did on October the 7th, anybody that supports that, and we know there are some of these high-profile spokesmen and celebrities pretty much giving a nod to it, they need to go. They need to go. Anyway, guys, that's it. So support Andy and what he's doing. Like I say, the link to his Raising the Colours, it's not GoFundMe, it's a Buy Me a Coffee page. The link's in there. Click on the link. If you can chip in a bit, that'd be great, because they are literally burning through flags, literally, because as fast as they put them up, the council are taking them down. And again, I'm proud to call Glenn and Andy my friends. They've done a great deal in looking after Tommy down through the years, and now they're doing their own stuff, and I take my hat off to them. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and just keep it going, lads. And yeah, and everybody book your tickets for the 13th. I'll see you all soon. In fact, no, I'm not. I always say this, and then I stay on a bit. I want to check some of these comments, because I've been on a rant. Okay, so let me check some of these comments. The Bell Hotel has to be empty by the 12th of September. Brilliant. But where are they going? That's my question. That's my question, because the people of Epping will think they've got a great victory, but they haven't, because they're going somewhere. Absolutely. Everybody's been saying that, Claire. Let's get that done. Let's get them into somewhere, get them out. In the UK, we should make it a law. No, yep. I agree. Yep. I totally agree with that. The next election, if it doesn't go right way as a nation, I agree with that too, Kendo. That's why I'm so passionate about advance. You know, and again, I'm not a party political guy. I'm not someone that gets wrapped around a party. I'm just saying I think they've got what it takes. If I'm wrong, well, I've been wrong before, haven't I? But if I'm wrong, you know, there's no other option other than advance, as far as I can see. 4 years is a long time. Looking at the crap Labour have done. No, I know, Kendo. I agree. Absolutely right, Paul, and we won't lose. We're going to keep fighting. Okay. Ollie Gary's at it again. Just got Ukraine to attack Hungary pipeline. Oh man. Yeah, well, they're pushing, aren't they? I mean, it looks like when it looks like there's going to be some progress on getting peace in Ukraine, they always do something to not on both sides. I mean, they always do something to knock it off. Richard, it's a great place written by the Small Hats, who are as bad, if not worse, than the Brotherhood. Emergency camps like COVID camps near airports like Allocator, Alcatraz. I agree with that 100%. I'm back again, Paul. It keeps freezing for me on Counter Media, so I have to switch to Richard Inman channel, which is a bit mad because the other one, because this is the one monitored. Yeah, totally. I mean, again, I just wonder what's happening. I thought they'd knocked off my super chats the other day, but obviously they haven't, which is great. But I was, it looked like that had happened, but they haven't. So good. Okay. That island with Komodo dragons, perhaps. Sid Snot, thank you very much for that. Yeah, I agree. Families are here illegally. They aren't refugees. I totally agree with that. They've all got to go. Put on dinghies and escort. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Why not? I don't have a problem with that. Put on dinghies and escorted back into French waters. Make them walk back to France. What, through the Channel Tunnel? Or we do it on a very low tide? Okay. The last resort is Dad's Army 2.0. Oh man. The question is who's going to be Uncle Arthur? Who's going to be Private Pike? Who's going to be Jones? Who's going to be Captain Mannering? I love Dad's Army. I really did like it. I think off a place, it was very secure during the festival. Yes, Glastonbury tents, food supplied until deported. Yep, I agree. Not allowed to roam. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Nicola. Thank you. Yeah, do you know, this is the problem when I'm behind on the things. I don't have a clue what I'm right about because I'm very rarely right. I mean, I've been married long enough to know that I'm very rarely right. I agree with everything he says. Well, Nicola, thanks for that. But again, I don't know what I've said. So who's taking bets the first time? I don't call it. Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Is this about me when I say I'm going to finish and then I keep going for another half hour? Okie doke. Thank you for another awesome live stream. Keep me fantastic work. Greg, thank you very much for that, Greg. Like I say, at this time of night, I'm not the most coherent, but I'm doing my best just to fight through it. God bless you. See you at 13th. Keep up the good work, Richard. Thanks for that, Grace. Yeah, well, I mean, that's one surefire way of losing the next general election, isn't it? Yes, they might get the Muslim vote, but everybody else is going to vote against them if that hateful man becomes prime minister. Can you imagine that scumbag as prime minister? Oh, don't even go there, Zelda. God bless Britain in our hour of need, in her hour of need. Yeah, well, God has blessed us before, and that's another thing. I know there's people don't believe, but we need to pray, guys. Yes, I saw bits of that. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to get caught up on that when I get finished here. Night goes, Pauline, you running before he reads our comments. Oh, Jerry, where are you coming from, mate? Let me know in the comments. That I said this the other day. Again, I'm not trying to guess what background Jerry's coming from, but there's people coming from Republican areas, and they're joining up with lads from loyalist areas of Belfast, coming together to go to Tommy's demo on the 13th, which I think is fantastic. Just in the comments, right? Just let me know. Let me know how many of you, just before I go here, let me know how many of you are going on the 13th. Just give us an idea how many we've got that are in these comments. So we've got like 550 people watching. Just let me know if you're going on the 13th. Yep. So there's Just want to put that up there. Yeah, absolutely, Five Pants. My thoughts are with Pinky as well. I haven't seen it because obviously he's been getting a lot of heat coming down on him. But if you're watching this, Pinky, we're thinking about your brother. I must actually give him a shout. Yep. So everybody in the comments is saying they're going. And again, how many got? How many from Northern Ireland are going? Yep. 2 from Manchester, not going. Police are evil. 660 from Norwich. Wow. Travel planes. I'm going, hopefully. Going from Glasgow. Right, guys, I'm going to call this a wrap because we've been going an hour and 15. Again, thanks for everybody coming on. The numbers are down a bit. When we were doing these before, doing the late night ones, we were getting up over 1,000, around about 500. So I think something's happened with YouTube, because I noticed some of the. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Some of the results I was getting served from YouTube have been really, really weird. And yeah, 120 from New Zealand. We've got the Maori coming in to do the hacker, and yeah, 15. See, I don't see this, so everybody's having chats in the background saying he said he's going to finish now, but he's going to go on for another 15 minutes. Is that what's going on here? Am I just not? Am I just missing this, guys? Listen, it is an absolute pleasure, and thanks everybody for coming on and just hearing me rant like a rabid lunatic yet again. But you know, we've got to keep encouraging each other, and we've got to keep going. Yeah, do you know what? That's a good. I thought that as well. You know, I thought that too. It would be good for people to do rallies in their own localities if they can't make it. You know, because I think everybody that's going to make it is probably pretty much booked and said they're going. Yeah, right. I am going, guys, because YouTube definitely messing. Night all. Hopefully, I'll get to go 13th, so I might actually get to meet some of you. Okay. Right, guys, I am going to honestly call that a day because I'm done. It's just when people are still commenting, I feel really rude just closing things off, you see. Okay, me and partner going on the 13th. Good. It's an embarrassment to me. Yeah, but we're not Kiwis, so it's novelty to us, you know what I mean? No surrender. I shall also go to Altrincham on Saturday. Awesome. Right, guys, I'm going to go. See you all soon. Adios.